What if I told you there's a way to reduce your debts by up to 80% and you keep all your assets? Today, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about consumer proposals, a legal option that could be the debt relief solution you've been looking for. Coming up in this video, you'll learn 3 key things: what exactly a consumer proposal is and how it works as a legally binding agreement with your creditors, all the benefits and disadvantages you need to consider so you can make an informed decision, and lastly, whether you qualify and what debts can and cannot be included. Plus, a real-life example of how it helped one of my clients. Stick around. By the end of this video, you'll know if a consumer proposal is the right debt solution for your financial situation. So let's start with the basics. What is a consumer proposal? A consumer proposal is a legally binding contract between you and all your unsecured creditors to pay all or a portion of your outstanding debts. It's a formal agreement that's regulated by the Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy, which means all your creditors have to comply with the agreed terms once it is accepted. Now, if you're struggling with your debts and want to avoid bankruptcy, this can be a great option to pay off all your debts. Think of it as a negotiated settlement. Instead of paying the full amount you owe, you're proposing to pay a reduced amount over a set period of time. In Canada, only a licensed insolvency trustee can file consumer proposals. The licensed insolvency trustee will review your financial situation and propose a plan that outlines how much you will pay each month and for how long. This reduces the stress of dealing with multiple creditors because you're now just making one monthly payment while no longer incurring any interest on your debts. Now, to qualify for a consumer proposal, you must have debts between $5,000 and $250,000 in debts in Canada. And that's excluding the mortgage on your primary residence. If you have debts more than $250,000, then you can consider filing what's called a Division 1 proposal, which is a different process. Consumer proposals include all unsecured debts such as credit cards, lines of credit, tax debt, personal loans, and student loans. We'll get into more detail about what specific debts can and cannot be included a bit later in this video. Let me walk you through the major benefits of filing a consumer proposal because there's some real advantages here. First, you can reduce your total debts owing by up to 80% depending on your financial situation. That's huge. Imagine if you owe $50,000 and you could settle it for $10,000 to $15,000. That's some big savings. Second, it immediately stops all interest on your debts. No more watching your balances grow even when you're making payments. Third, it immediately stops all collection actions by the creditors. Those stressful phone calls and letters, they stop right away. Going forward, they're legally prevented from contacting you for those debts. Fourth, it stops all wage garnishments and judgments by creditors. If your wages are currently being garnished or about to be garnished, this will immediately stop them. As long as you complete your consumer proposal, then these garnishments will go away for good. Fifth, you keep all of your assets, your house, your vehicle, your investments. Everything stays with you. This is a massive advantage over bankruptcy, where you may have to turn over some of your assets to the trustee to sell for the benefit of your creditors. And finally, it can be paid off sooner with no penalties. If you come into some money and want to pay it off early, you can do that without any extra fees or penalties. The consumer proposal also helps relieve stress of paying multiple creditors each month. Instead, you're making one monthly payment and you can consolidate all your debts into this single payment. You can also pay it off as soon as you want. There's no minimum time requirement that you need to be in for a consumer proposal. Now let's talk about the disadvantages because you need to know the full picture before making the right decision. The most significant disadvantage of filing a consumer proposal is that it will impact your credit rating. Filing a consumer proposal will assign an R7 rating to your credit record, which just means you're on a payment plan with your creditors. For a comparison, a bankruptcy would have an R9 rating. This will stay on your credit report for a period of time, which is typically 3 years from when completed or 6 years from when filed, whatever occurs sooner. Also, you'll have to stop doing business with your creditors included in your consumer proposal. For example, if you owe money to a credit card with the same bank where you hold your bank account, you will likely need to open a new one at another financial institution. This is because of something called the right to offset, where banks can take money from your current bank account to pay debts you owe them. Now you're probably wondering, how much can I actually reduce my debts? Well, depending on your financial situation, you can reduce your debts by up to 80%. However, there's no guarantees you will save this much. Everyone's financial situation is different. So, some may save less. Creditors will look at your assets, income, liabilities, budget, and whether you filed a bankruptcy before to determine whether they will accept your consumer proposal. Generally, creditors are motivated to accept a consumer proposal if they receive more money than if you file for bankruptcy. Therefore, the trustee will assist you in determining an amount that your creditors are likely to accept. The key here is that creditors want to get something rather than nothing. If they think you might file for bankruptcy and they'll get even less, they're more likely to accept your consumer proposal. Let's now get specific about what debts can and cannot be included in a consumer proposal, because this is really important to understand. Consumer proposals can include most unsecured debts such as credit cards, lines of credit, personal loans, payday loans, and even money you owe to the Canada Revenue Agency for taxes. Those are included too. Student loans are not so simple. They will still be included in a consumer proposal, but you only get to stop payments and have it discharged if it's been more than 7 years since you last attended school when filing a consumer proposal. Now, there are also some debts that are not included in a consumer proposal. Secured debts could not be included, things like car loan if you're keeping your car, or the mortgage on your house. You'll likely want to keep these assets, so you will need to continue paying these debts, or the creditors will want to take these assets back from you. There are also other debts which cannot be discharged in a consumer proposal, such as court fines from traffic tickets, spousal and child support arrears, debts arising from fraud, like if you obtain money fraudulently, and as discussed previously, student loans that are less than 7 years from when you last attended school. I know this is a lot of information, so let me share a real-life example to show you how this works in practice. I had a client, we'll call her Jill, who contacted us because she was struggling with debts. She was paying all her creditors $600 per month by making minimum payments, but her debts always stayed the same. Sound familiar? She owed $50,000 to 5 different creditors, so it'd be really difficult to negotiate with each one directly. She also had a vehicle, which she owned, and a small tax-free savings account with $4,000 in it. We discussed the options between bankruptcy and consumer proposal. Based on her income, the payments in bankruptcy would be about $700 per month. For 21 months, that's $14,700 in total. A consumer proposal would be $325 per month for 60 months. That's a total of $19,500. Now you might think, wait, the consumer proposal costs more. But here's why Jill chose the consumer proposal option. The monthly payments were much smaller and more manageable. She could keep her TFSA account and vehicle, and it wouldn't hurt her credit score as much as bankruptcy. More importantly, she felt better trying to pay off her debts the best she could with a consumer proposal instead of filing for bankruptcy. It gave her peace of mind that she was making an effort to pay back what she could afford. She appreciated these creditors lending her money when she needed it and wanted to do her best to pay back what she could. Let's move on to answering some of the most common questions I get about consumer proposals. Will a consumer proposal affect my current employment? Your current employment shouldn't be affected by filing a consumer proposal. In most cases, your employer will not know you filed a consumer proposal. Generally, only your creditors will be advised about the consumer proposal. However, if your wages are already being garnished, the licensed insolvency trustee will contact your employer and inform them about your proposal to have them stop garnishing your wages. Also, depending on your professional association may require you to advise them if you file a consumer proposal. You should contact them before filing a proposal and see if this impacts your designation or employment. Can I keep my assets while in a consumer proposal? Yes, you can keep your assets in a consumer proposal. No one will take your clothes, own vehicle, or investments. You can also purchase new assets during the consumer proposal with no consequences. That is one of the biggest advantages over personal bankruptcy. Can I exclude certain creditors from my consumer proposal? I get this question a lot. Many people say, I'm fine with keeping these debts and I only want to do a consumer proposal for these other ones. Unfortunately, no, you cannot exclude certain creditors. The consumer proposal is made to all your creditors with the same terms for all unsecured creditors. For example, it wouldn't be fair to your creditors if you excluded one credit card and continue paying that one, and the rest of your creditors were then included in your consumer proposal receiving a lower payment. They should all be treated equally. So you must advise the licensed insolvency trustee of all your known creditors to allow them to file a claim in your consumer proposal to share in the distributions from your payments. If you forget about a creditor when filing a consumer proposal, that's okay. They will still be included, as all unsecured debts owing as of the filing date will be automatically included. You just need to advise the creditor or request the licensed insolvency trustee to notify the creditor as soon as possible after the proposal has been filed. So now you have all the key information about consumer proposals. You know what they are, how they work, the benefits and disadvantages, and what debts can be included. Remember, a consumer proposal can reduce your debts by up to 80%, stop all interest charges, end collection calls and wage garnishments, and let you keep all your assets. But it will have an impact on your credit rating, and you will need to stop doing business with these included creditors. The most important thing is to get professional advice from a licensed insolvency trustee who can review your specific financial situation. They can tell you exactly how much you pay in a consumer proposal compared to other options like bankruptcy, and help you make the best decision for your circumstances. If you're struggling with debt and only making minimum payments that never seem to reduce your balances, a consumer proposal might be the right solution that gives you a fresh start and peace of mind. Now, if you think a consumer proposal might be right for your situation, make sure to watch my next video, How to File a Consumer Proposal in Canada, where I will walk you through exactly how to file a consumer proposal step by step. I'll show you the entire process from start to finish so you know exactly what to expect.